Hi everyone, it's Nicole here today for Honeybee Stamps, creating a Hey You paper pieced card. This is all die cutting except for the one small little Hey word there that was stamped and embossed. I did my die cutting off camera to save a little bit of time here today, and I'll be putting my card together, this little scene card together, and sharing the dies I'm using along the way. Everything from the background to the foreground is created with dies. So we're going to start here with that Sunburst A2 sized die. This is a cover plate, and I have die cut it from a couple of shades of yellow cardstock. This first piece is Simon Says Stamp Lemon cardstock, and then the inlay pieces rather are Lawn Fawn sticky note cardstock. So very tiny difference, but it makes a big difference. I think the tone on tone really kind of defines that sun in the sky. Now this is an A2 cover plate, but it is slightly smaller than A2 sized, meaning it's going to give a little thin white border around the edges. I put my adhesive directly on my white card base, and then I am inlaying all of these into that sunburst. I find this is a really easy way to design this. Even though a couple of the sun rays are going to get covered up with some of the additional layers, I think that it makes everything lay much flatter if you go ahead and insert all of them. Now I am going to go ahead and stamp the word that I'm going to use for my sentiment. My sentiment's going to be kind of centered there in the center of the sun. It's going to read, Hey You. This is from the Lily the Lamb stamp set, the word hey, and then the die cut word you is also from that. We'll stamp the word hey with a clear embossing ink and then heat set this with gold embossing powder. You could even do this before you insert the sun into the card if you don't want to have to worry about embossing powder getting anywhere in those little cracks and crevices of the sunburst. Next, we're going to adhere the next layer of our card. That was created with the mountain border die. This was die cut from some Simon Says Stamp green leaf cardstock. Again, I wanted my grass and the mountains to both have a little bit of a different green color but still be tone on tone. So this is green leaf. It's going to be pretty high up in the background. And it does go from side to side, A2 sized. So the top of the card will have a thin white border, but the rest of the card will not. Next, I forgot to show it, so I'll show it here in just a second. I am using a hill border to die cut some Lawn Fawn cilantro cardstock for that background that's going to go behind the farm fence. I also forgot to show the farm fence, which I'll show both of these die sets here in just a second. The farm fence was die cut from Lawn Fawn paper bag cardstock, both the fence base and then the layering pieces that have that wood texture to them. Those are going to be adhered right on top. I'm using some 1/8 inch score tape to adhere my fence. I find this works really well for the fence die. I've die cut both of these dies twice. Once to put on either side of the card. You could fill the entire background if you wanted to. The lamb is going to really kind of be in front of the fence here, so I chose not to, but you definitely could if you want to fill that whole border with the fence. So I'm going to do the same thing for the layering pieces. They add lots of texture, really, really fun. I love all these little dies. Now I went pretty simple with my card today. I didn't add any extra inking with distress inks or anything like that, but you definitely could if you wanted additional depth and dimension. Here is that farm fence die. As mentioned, I forgot to show it, so I wanted to show it here. I will be adding some pin detail to lots of areas of the card, either with a white or black pen, just to give a little extra something to the design. But I love the challenge of creating cards completely from dies. I think it's really fun. Honeybee has such an amazing assortment of dies that you can really create an entire scene card just from dies alone. Now some of these layers were a little bit longer, so I'm going to kind of snip them off as I go so I don't have to have to cut off so much at once. Here is the word you, also from that Lily the Lamb coordinating dies. I die cut this from a scrap piece of gold foil cardstock that has been attached to Fun Foam. I keep all my little scraps, and this worked perfectly for my card. Next, we have the grassy border. This is going to go in the foreground of the card. I did put some foam adhesive along that bottom edge. Because I'm not putting my fence clear down at the bottom, I felt like this was going to make my grass lay a little bit nicer along the bottom edge of the card. Again, this border and then the Drifting Hills border, or pardon me, the Hills border, are both die cut from Lawn Fawn Cilantro cardstock. One is back behind and one goes in front of the fence. Then the lamb is going to be tucked in between those so that it looks like it's standing in front of the fence with that in the grass. Again, just snip off any excess. I like to leave my borders a little bit long. It gives me a little room to play and make sure that I get it to fit. Now, this is Lily the paper piecing lamb. There's also a stamp image from the Lily the Lamb stamp set, so you can choose what you want to use, but I definitely wanted to do all die cutting here. I'm really addicted to paper piecing cute little critters like this, and I think this one is a super fun one to create. However, because so many of the elements along the bottom edge of the card, all those layers are starting to really make that kind of thick. So I felt it would be easier to pop up parts of her, the body and the face and things, and then keep the legs kind of flush against the fence and everything. So I'm using some foam adhesive to pop all of this up. And I like the scrapbook adhesives, foam adhesive squares. They're going to make it super easy to do my inlay as well, as far as the face, the eyes, the nose, the ear pieces. So you'll see that as I go. I'm using some liquid adhesive to secure the legs. Before I remove the backing paper from the body of the lamb, I want to secure the legs. This helps a little bit because I've already attached the grass, so it's a little tricky. I was just trying to place those pieces down there along the bottom edge, the hooves and things and the legs, with a jewel picker. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. What I found worked even better was using a pair of tweezers, which you'll see me pull out here in a minute. And the tweezers I can just stick the little paper pieced area down there between the grass and the fence, and I'm able to get it in a lot easier. I'm using liquid adhesive here. These little pieces are all so teeny tiny that I find this really works the best. So a combination of a jewel picker and some tweezers are two great little tools when you're doing a lot of paper piecing like this that really help put everything exactly where you want it to go. I also used my tool-in-one to remove a little excess glue. Nothing like using your tools, for some of them, for probably not what they're exactly intended for, but it works great. Now, once the legs are where I want them to go, I'm going to remove the foam adhesive from the body of the lamb. And then I'm going to add a little extra. I need some adhesive where those ears go, so that I can just inlay the ears into the lamb's body. And then I can line that up and put her exactly where I want her to go. Now, before I attach her, the final die collection I'm using today is Partly Cloudy, and I've die cut some clouds from vellum that I'm going to lay in the background. And I want to put those down. I was afraid that part of her might go over the clouds. I don't think that she actually did, but just in case, before I attach her, I wanted to get the rest of my background in place. I'm tucking one of my clouds here back behind one of the mountain peaks. We're going to just layer 3 of these. I like to usually do my embellishments in odd numbers, so groups of 3 is a popular one. 2 here along the left side and 1 in the upper right corner. Again, I want to just open up my card and snip off any of the excess. The vellum clouds add a nice touch. They help fill in the top portion of the card where there's not as much going on, and they add a nice layer without completely covering up the sun rays. I've also put foam adhesive on the back of the face, and so we're just simply going to start putting this all together. It's a little bit trickier using the foam adhesive, but I think it really worked out well for this particular card design. Now we're going to put the top of her head. I did die cut this little part of her wool 3 times, and I'm going to adhere them one on top of another. It adds just a tiny extra bit of dimension without a foam adhesive layer making it super thick, and really kind of helps give that definition between the face and the body of the lamb. I also did all those little inlay pieces for her ears. Her face and the tips of her ears and legs are all Simon Says Stamp smoke gray cardstock. Her hooves are slate gray cardstock. The insides of the ears are Lawn Fawn Ballet Slippers cardstock, and then the eyes and nose are Lawn Fawn Black Licorice cardstock. And you can see with the foam adhesive back behind the face, it's easy to simply inlay her eyes and nose right where you want them to go on the card. So there is the cute little die cut lamb. I think she's absolutely darling. I'm going to use a little Ranger Multi-Matte Medium now to add some of my favorite embellishments from Honeybee Stamps. These are the Candy Hearts in Kiss Me color. This is kind of a peachy red color, and this is going to add a fantastic pop of color to this die cut design. So I put 1 on her little chest, and then we've got 1 or 2 rather up by the greeting, and then we're going to have a couple more up in the upper part of the card. Again, this just adds balance to the design, which is very bottom heavy with so many more of the dies and borders going along that bottom edge. We want to kind of balance it out nicely and add that fun pop of color. Now comes my very favorite part of creating a die cut scene like this, and that is adding the finishing touches. I added some glossy accents to the eyes, some eyelashes to the eyes, or I added glossy accents to the nose, pardon me, white accents to the eyes and the cheeks, eyelashes with a black pen, and then we're going to take the white pen and add detail kind of throughout the design along the edges. So I added a little bit to her ears, probably no more to her face because the little white dots on her cheeks really kind of give me that highlight that I want. But then the edge of the mountain range, the sun rays that are not covered up by clouds or anything like that, I'm going to add a little white line to those. To the fence post, we're going to take the white pen and just trace along the fence little marks that die cut when we die cut those layering pieces. Add a little highlight to her legs, and then we'll add just a few little highlights to the blades of grass along the front of the card. And then I even went along the clouds, have some stitching detail that I think kind of gets lost and is a little hard to see with the vellum especially. So I'm going to take my white pen and trace over those little highlights as well as kind of go around the circle portion of the middle of the sun. And the little highlights add a ton of definition to this card. Adding any detail to the face especially, I think makes any of these paper pieced critters come to life and really adds a lot of interest to them. Now, the one thing about die cutting a paper pieced critter or whatever it might be from white is that you can't really take the white pen and take it to a white piece of paper. You're not going to see anything. So I took a fine tip black pen and I'm going to outline the sheep's body. And I think this really kind of finishes it off nicely. I used a very thin tip black pin. I believe it's just a 0.1 pin. It is linked in the supplies because I didn't want a really thick line. I wanted something pretty subtle. And I'm going to go completely around the edges of this sheep, around the top of her head, and that will finish off my paper pieced scene card featuring lots and lots of amazing dies from Honeybee Stamps. Thank you guys so much for joining me today for this card featuring lots of paper piecing using dies. I hope this has inspired you to try your own card using die cut shapes. The supplies I've used are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Please subscribe to the Honeybee channel for lots of inspiring videos. Thanks for watching.